All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we'll take a good look at the sector, looking at a bunch of tickers actually, and I think for a second week in a row now, they're all going to be chaptered together, right? And mainly because the sector Unison is starting to get stronger and stronger, right? For what felt like almost a month, I was basically putting 3 or 4 stocks in one chapter and then another two in another because those were the strongest and these ones were trying to catch up. It does feel like they're all moving together now. And really, today was a very important day across the sector, right? You can see it right here on Tilray. We can't, beautiful pop, right? You go away from the 8, we couldn't confirm, right? So what did we do? We came back to the 8, and really today felt like we were either going to go under the 8 and down to the 20, or as we saw today, hold it, bounce up, and go, right? CGC, not quite the same, but CGC in some ways also used the 8 to propel up, and one more test of that 200 moving average. You know how important that is for me, right? As we look at ACB, I mean, almost identical, right? That big pop couldn't confirm, so it comes back to the 8, but just love this line for so many different reasons, and this beautiful bounce right here is a nice little example of it, right? MSOS, not quite exactly the same thing, but all I'm really seeing is watching it go up and hold that 8, right? So again, as I'm talking about all of these, it's all that 8 moving average. It's all bouncing on it. This one happens to be holding on it, but I am really liking that sector Unison so far, right? SNDL with maybe my favorite candle. I know it's not a big percent or anything like that, but yeah, this thing continues to do its best to not come even into that 20 moving average outside from that little thing right there, right? And it is holding it nicely. High tide did slip a little bit under. We've actually now been under for the last couple days. I think one thing I did say, right? This was gaining a lot of volume as it was over the 8 and holding and arguably one of the best 2 in the sector, right? As the attention starts to move to the other weed stocks, volume did end up dropping right here, right? So I'm seeing the volume drop. I'm still liking the fact that it's at least a 500,000 shares a day. That's not too bad, especially where we used to be not that long ago, right? But little concerning right here. Can't pretend it isn't, but I think overall, as I'm looking at the sector strength across all those other tickers, I'm wanting to see high tide get me back over that 8 and 20 cluster and make our way back up, right? So we'll talk about that a bit. So this morning, it was basically the first thing I said on the Discord. I talked about the NASDAQ, I talked about the S&P 500, and I talked about the Dow Jones, all right? So this morning, we actually gap up, right? Again, it's not significant, but we were down here yesterday, and then we open all the way up here this morning. We then run just a little bit higher, and then all of a sudden make our way down, right? For the most part, it was all day, right? There was a little bit of doji in that first hour, and then, yeah, it just kind of came down from there, right? You basically see the exact same thing with the S&P 500, not a big one, but we do gap up, we do go up a little bit, and then it comes down. As you look in the hourly, same doji, same 2 hours to follow, right? When we look at the Dow Jones, DJ30, not quite identical, but again, you can see all 3 of them were red. Give me a second. Tilray. Dun dun dun. Oh, we'll talk about the earnings for sure. Here it is. Look, so I had talked about the where is it? Dang. You would think sometimes I practice stuff, but I don't. So look, it really was holding the key supports in the morning, and to me, you hear me say this a bunch of times, right? I want the sector to move with the Dow Jones. If the Dow Jones goes up, these should go up because we're just talking about farming. We're just talking about selling in a store, right? But we have seen this sector do well when the market doesn't. I don't want to call it meme stocks, right? Like that's not what these videos are about, but it is important to keep in mind that yeah, most stocks when all 3 indices will, go down, those will too. Weed has the ability to kind of be a little bit of an outlier and make its way on up while these are coming down, right? So I think I really like that, especially coming into today. That's a big, almost double-digit percent, big important hold and go right there, despite the fact, I'm not going to go through them again, right? But despite the fact that all the indices didn't do well. And that's literally what we said about all these stocks except one, right? So I am not the biggest fan that it's not following, but hey, whatever in a lot of ways, right? So um cool. Yeah, I think that's a good opening thought right here. So before we do go any further though, and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we gonna do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines. There's some up there too that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So let's get into it. And look, one more time, I am not going to make individual chapters because this sector does really well when there's strength and unison across all the tickers. They are all looking exactly the same, give or take. Maybe I shouldn't use the word exact, but I'm seeing a lot of unison, and to me, that's well worth highlighting and not breaking it up. The one stock I'm gonna call out again, I still like today. I said it in the opening thoughts, but CGC is the only stock that is not over all 5. All right, I'm going to go through all of them shortly, but you can see we're still under the 200 moving average on the daily, and it's at least worth noting you got to break all 5 before you can fly, right? This thing wants to, but just can't yet, right? So I use the word yet appropriately, right? We don't know if it will or won't, but yeah, and again, we've talked about it, also tried right here. This line has been a really tough line, and just basically looking at it, since we lost it right here in 2021, we've basically been under it the entirety of this time, right? Almost a full 5 years under that purple line outside of what, that 3-month window right there, right? So it's a tough purple line, all right? And it's definitely the only one that's still under all 5. Otherwise, like I said, I am liking what today did because a lot of the unison was the bounce. Even on CGC right there, right? Just kind of coming back to it, this thing also did bounce appropriately, right? And you can arguably say it used the 8 moving average today to make most of the propel up right there, right? So I am seeing a nice unison with a very important hold because, like I said in the opening thoughts, if it didn't go up like this, it was coming down to probably under 150 if I had to guess, right? So I really like the fact that we're actually holding what used to be, and just look at it, right? Even on this first run, it's what stopped us, right? And then we go over it and then seemingly use it as a support. Oh man, when you can use this one's red for a reason. This one's the death line at one point, right? When we lost 151, we went all the way down to 30 cents ish, right? So that was a bad line, a bad resistance. Can't get over it, can't get over it, can't get over it, can't get over it. We finally do. Let's bounce and go. Oh man, that's technicals 101, right? Turn a resistance into a support. Oh, that's lovely right there, right? I think it's nice to also see MSOS roughly do it, right? This same line, again, different dollar point, but same red death badness, right? When we lost this line, we went from 5 to the 1s. Nope. Did we hit 1s? Let me see that wick right there. No, that didn't go into 1. All right, we stayed at 2 something, which is nice. But yeah, that's more than a 50% drop. You don't want to lose death line. Tough resistance, tough resistance, tough resistance, tough resistance. We got over it, but couldn't use it as a bounce right there. Look, let's get over it. Let's never come back, right? I don't need it to do the exact same thing as Tilray, right? I like that they're both over it. That's a good unison enough for me, but I wouldn't mind if we do the same kind of bounce thing, but Tilray's over it, MSOS is over it. I like that. That's a unison thing for me right there, right? Let's look at a couple other ones, right? As we look at ACB, and again, I'll get to the numbers shortly. I will give you our money lines for tomorrow, what we don't want to lose, and all that, right? But I'm just really emphasizing it just used the 8 identically like Tilray. And like Tilray, this one actually closed a little bit over one of my resistance lines. Like Tilray, this one closed a little bit over one of my resistance lines. I think MSOS? No, it did not. Sorry about that. It was CGC that did it. It was just under. But that's a little bit of a Unison thing going on right there as well, right? So all of these do have nice indicators down there. Again, I'll get into all of that as well. As we look at SNDL, this is nice right here, right? We're just kind of bouncing and going right there, right? So same good indicators. I'd like the green over red right there, but still very much really liking SNDL. And then, like I said, high tide is a little bit of an outlier right now. I don't like the fact that we are actually physically under for the last 3 days, but that's a pretty tight window right there, right? So just get me back over it. Again, I'll start talking about my numbers shortly, but this is a little bit of an outlier. I think the loss in volume is probably a little bit of what's doing this thing. But again, when most are doing it and you have one, the goal really is sector strength just picks that one up as the rest go, right? So this entire time, I haven't really talked about any Donald Trump stuff, but there's still a lot of rumor out there that hasn't been fulfilled yet. And to me, that's not a bad thing. I like rumors, right? I mean, the saying is you buy the rumor and you sell the news. Sometimes the news is not as cool as the rumors were. And there's a lot of really big rumors going on right now. I'm starting to see people talk about the government shutdown and the connection to legalizing or rescheduling or at least something, right? There is money that needs to get repaid to a lot of people. And I'm not that educated and I'm not pretending I know a lot of this. I'm just kind of telling you what I'm seeing, right? And maybe you start doing some stuff with this sector to start bringing in some new tax money and start, doing things with that, right? So it's interesting to hear just, again, some wild rumors for all I know, right? But just throw them into the pot, let it boil, let that steam get the wheels turning, right? Oh, that's that. We like rumors, right? Especially as we can get just like a little sprinkle, right? This big pop, everyone got this big pop, right? We talked about ACB getting this pop, blah, blah, blah. You don't need me to go through it. This was from that Trump video about CBD being good for the elderly, right? So what looked like, oh man, I'm worried we're about to lose the lines. No. Just a little sprinkle of something. And then the rumors, the lines, the moving averages, they do the rest, right? So a key thing to highlight before we get into the numbers, and hey, maybe I'll chapter it right here since this is the numbers part. Tilray has earnings on Thursday, and I actually really had no idea. It was in this room right here. Thank you so much for letting me know that. I totally would have come into this video not knowing, right? And I do see it right here, and I'm glad it's right. But we have earnings in 2 days. My immediate thought is I like Tilray going into tomorrow because I do like this setup. This seems like a nice bounce. There is a really nice channel here. Hey, maybe we can make our way to like the 190s, if not maybe even kiss 2. I think that's relatively realistic. Dude, if you break 2, dudettes for my girls watching, you break 2 and there's a lot of green, red, green. Like there's room to be made. But at the minimum, I could see a move to 2 being realistic tomorrow. Once we get into Thursday, I always say it. Look, I don't care if it's a $2 stock, a $200 stock, a $2,000 stock, a penny, a blue chip, or anything in between. Earnings are crazy. I've seen good earnings bring horrible candles. I've seen the dumbest reverse split, bad earning, bad EPS, like just bring these triple digit candles, right? So earnings are crazy. And hopefully they can maybe add a little bit of rumor into it. I don't know, right? But let's see what earnings brings. In the room, we were in the room being the Discord room, right? We were talking about let me see if I can find it real quick. There were 2 one-time markdowns. Hopefully it really was just one time. Hey, keep an eye on Fig. Just FYI. There were some markdowns. Hopefully that doesn't repeat itself this year and mess up the EPS math. Earnings per share is a very, very important line, right? So I'll be looking for that on the Tilray earnings. But Thursday means Wednesday is quote unquote safe. I don't like doing the quote unquote, and I'm actually really disappointed in myself for saying that. I apologize, but tomorrow is safe in a very unsafe market. You know that, right? There's no such thing as safe. But Thursday becomes the 50-50. And if you know me, if you know my videos well, I prefer to on Friday ride the avalanche. Oh, sorry, ride the wave up or avoid the avalanche down. That's really what I do think. And I'm telling you, if we have good earnings, we'll probably run to 321. I generally, maybe there's a good resistance at 220 and it's probably 220 and 270. But the way I look at earnings, you're either going to smash two lines up or you're going to lose two lines down, right? So good earnings on Thursday will propel this to 321 or will probably drop to about 125. I think that's, and maybe even as low as like 115. And if earnings are that bad, it would come down here. But I think 115 downside, and then anywhere from that 270 to the 321. Like I said, I don't know if I should draw this line or not. I am obviously not going to do it right now. But yeah, that's the Thursday move. And really, it doesn't matter how good the Wednesday setup is or how bad the Wednesday setup is. It's all about this. In a lot of ways, to me, that minus 3 cents, that's the expected earnings per share. They need to lose 2 cents or do better than that. Lose 1 cent or actually come into the profitable earnings per share, right? Make a penny per share. Oh man, that'd be nice, right? So you got to be EPS. That's going to dictate what's the up and down here. So Tilray, in so many ways, is going to be the only one where I kind of have to educatedly say these technicals don't matter. We're either smashing two or dropping two. From there, the rest I can at least say some educated, thoughts and opinions based on these technicals. So the one thing we've been saying about CGC, look, there's ways you can gauge risk and reward. To me, and we've been talking about this since really back here in August, with so many lines down here, with literal, I only have 5 moving averages, with 4 of the 5 moving averages almost layered on each other. The theory really was we should never go below the lowest line. And we're going to try to go up, but then we're going to come back down. We're going to try to go up, and then we're going to come back down. We're going to try to go up, and we're going to come back down. We literally came down 4 times, right? And if you want to count wicks, more than 4, right? But this is what we've been expecting. The risk was rather low here, and so far, hey, so was the reward, right? But again, if you're patient with it, that's not a bad thing for so many people. Low risk and decent attempts at a line is not bad trading. You know what I mean? I said it earlier. I'm going to say it one more time. Arguably since existence, but there actually was a pretty good run in the 2020 range. So we're gonna say since 2021, since May of 2021, for a full 4 years, knocking on the door of 5 years, all right? We've been under the 200 moving average except for this 3-month window, right? Otherwise, it was just a little peak and right back under. 3-month window, little peak right back under, never again. Little peak right. It's been a very tough line, and as good as the sector has been, this, and you know what, this was a decent earnings right here. This actually had a rather nice earnings in August from what I remember. Still can't get over the 200 moving average. This one's last for a reason. I didn't wake up one day and make up this line. You know what I mean? So we got to get over it. And really, it feels like 155 is that money line. That's an alert I wouldn't mind setting. An alert is not an immediate buy notification. It's definitely a come check it out. But 155, break 155, get me into 156. And all of a sudden, I'm going to start thinking maybe 2 is possible, because there is nothing but red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 green. Like, this is a fast channel up and down, and maybe it's just going to take a couple more days for that 200 to actually get here, and that's going to be the make or break. But man, if this can get over the 200, it feels like it's going to make a good way up. Look, obviously this does not have earnings in 2 days, but if Tilray earnings go well, I can see CGC getting some love from it. If earnings goes bad, I think it's a little bit of a 50-50. Maybe volume will jump and disappear from Tilray and come to CGC among others, or it'll bring everything down with it, right? So there's obviously going to be that ripple with this sector Unison that's come now from that Tilray earnings, right? But I think you break 155, 156, and yeah, you can start thinking $2 from there, right? And really, as you look in the weekly, there is a path to two. It's a little bit under two, but it's basically 190, right? It looks like we're trying to get over the 8 and the 20, and the next place you're going to go is the 50. And like I said, with this 200 being the last one on the daily, the path can very nicely come there, right? So I'm liking CGC over 150. Otherwise, I would expect it to come down to 136. Right? I still have no reason to believe it's going to lose 136 unless the stock gives me a reason, right? But so far, it's been holding the lines well, like we've been expecting it to, right? From there, let's come into MSOS. And again, I said it shortly, a little bit earlier in this video. I do like the fact that this is becoming a I don't want to use the word support just yet, but this seems to be a line that we're not as afraid of. Right? What was a horrible death line that did stop the first run and couldn't confirm it later, all of a sudden, as I zoom out and kind of look at this thing, we're now just oscillating over it. And yeah, we've been a little bit more under than over during this little 2 month period, but it kind of feels like we're going to start knocking on the door of 6. And if we can actually do that, we might be talking about filling this gap to 660 right there, right? So it's not that bad comparatively with this line, especially as I start looking at these lower indicators. That's a nice MACD with green over red in the positive. That's a really healthy 65 with the same, green over red. Volume's not bad. The last 2 days have at least been a little bit over the average, and I am seeing a nice little healthy growth right there, even as I come back to down here, right? So I'd love to increase that slope a little bit more. I'm asking for almost double, but get me a little closer to 30 million shares on MSOS, and oh, that can do some nice things. Maybe that's what would bring that 660 right there, all right? I think the first thing I would say is I don't want to lose 5, right? I really don't want to go under. I don't mind using a resistance as a support to bounce and go, right? We couldn't do it here. We were over it and then lost it and then failed, right? Over it, bounce and go, technical 101. It's an easy way to reset an RSI. This kind of doesn't need it, like I said. That's why I'm really actually hoping we never come back down to it, right? If we lose 5, what I do like is we really shouldn't lose more than another 10% from there, right? I can't imagine this thing going any lower than 455. As you've seen, this has been a pretty strong 50, only hitting it once right there, right? So the goal actually is 6 and maybe even a good push to 660 with the right amount of volume right there. All right. As we look at ACB, I'm really liking this, right? This is a lovely bounce on the 8 moving average. We're clearly at a resistance, so I do want a little bit of confirmation. And it's been a tough line. It failed right here, obviously just failed right here. I don't want to fail again, right? But I am very bullish as low as 6. And truth be told, it's not quite losing the entirety, and I don't want to give up so much of this candle, but I'm basically kind of looking at 50% candle being around 590 on this big one. I think I'd be okay as low as 590 as long as we don't lose that, right? But what we're really looking for, our money line, oh man, we've wicked it a couple times. That sucks. Is there a safer line we can use? That's a little too high. 660. If you can break 660 on ACB, we're heading to 750. I'm at 740, but we're just splitting pennies at that point, right? 660 gets me over the wicks, gets me over this, and it's basically 50% of this August 2024 candle. 660 I think is a nice line. Arguably though, you can probably use that 640. I just don't like the fact that we wicked it the last 2 days and clearly failed after that attempt, right? So maybe just a little bit higher would be nice. And like I said, we don't want to go anywhere below 590, 50% candle right there. Cool. Let's come into SNDL, and yeah, I am liking this SNDL chart right here. Again, this has arguably been my number one for I mean, this entire run, you know what I mean? So SNDL is looking really nice on the technicals. There was a comment from someone that actually said this is arguably the nicest on the fundamentals. You know me, I don't know much about these companies, right? These are all random 3, 4, 5 letters, and I'm just looking at the technicals, right? But hey, if that is actually the case and the technicals are aligning to that, that's a beautiful thing right there, right? But all we're doing is holding the 8 and the 20, and as long as you're over the 8 and the 20, good things will happen, right? So these are healthy indicators. I do wish we had green over red on both, but I'm still seeing a MACD that's positive. I am seeing an RSI. It's more horizontal than ideal, but yo, that's a very, very healthy 55 right there, right? Where are we on the weekly? Yeah, look, we're still battling a really important 200 moving average on the weekly that we've never been over. Clearly, we've been over it most of this entire like 2 month window. But when I say over, I mean like break and confirm, right? So let me see if I can lower this line much or if I even want to. But where are we right there? Yeah, 280 is a really important number. 280, even you can say this 277. Yeah, again, I like this ticker a lot. It has been rocking it very, very well. All right. And then last but certainly not least, we are coming into high tide. Definitely annoyed, right? I can't pretend I'm not annoyed. This is the only one that's under the 8 and the 20. Every single one before this has been over it. This is clearly not two scary candles, let alone one scary candle under it. Dojis don't count. Dojis don't count. This is at least a green candle, right? And it did try to get over it today. But I need more than try to get over it. And really what I do want, I think it's this. Yeah, let's use this little small candle. I want to get back. I want to close over $3.68. I'd love 370. Give me those extra pennies, right? But that'll at least get me over this little thing. It'll put me into this. It'll put me into this. And then I think we could start thinking maybe a reattempt at 4 right there, right? So I think I'll say it one more time. With the Tilray earning coming on Thursday, I think high tide finds itself at an interesting 50-50. Yeah, not an interesting 66-33. I probably could have said that a little smarter, but I think there's 2 out of 3 good things that could happen with one that maybe is concerning, right? If Tilray earnings are good, hopefully that helps the sector strength even more and everything goes up, and then that just propels this over the 8 and the 20 as well, right? So that's one solid good that has nothing to do with high tide at all. If Tilray earnings are bad, there is actually a very decent chance, and it's one of the 2 other, what's the second of the good things, volume can go away from Tilray as it goes down and start to flood into the other tickers that aren't as bad, high tide being one of them, right? The other thing would just be Tilray earnings are bad and it just drags everyone down, right? So hopefully we'll avoid the bottom, but really the most important thing, high tide specifically, is get me back over 368 USD, get me back over the moving averages, let me follow the rest of that sector strength up, right? So let me know your thoughts, let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so much.